Hello, mathematicians. Today we're going to be learning about two-step equations. And in these equations, we're going to focus on the operations division, addition, and subtraction. Here I have x divided by 2 plus 12 is equal to 28. So remember that our goal is always to isolate our x so that we could find its value. And in order to do so, we have to make sure that whatever term has x we'll leave for last. So we'll leave x divided by 2 for last, and so that means we have to get rid of this plus 12 or positive 12. So we could use the inverse additive property, which tells us if we take 12 and add its opposite to it, which is negative 12, these two would cancel out because 12 plus negative 12 equals 0. Or we could do the same thing and just take 12 and subtract 12. So 12 plus negative 12 is the same thing as 12 minus 12. So either or would work. I'm going to subtract by 12 on both sides. And on the left side, these cancel out because 12 minus 12 is 0. On the left side, I'm left with x divided by 2 is equal to, on the right side, I have 28 minus 12. 8 minus 2 is 6. 2 minus 1 is 1. So x divided by 2 is equal to 16. And this is division, and the inverse operation to division is multiplication. So if we want to cancel out this 2 here, we can multiply both sides by 2. So if I multiply that by 2, these cancel out, and I'll do the same thing on the other side. So now I have x is equal to 16 times 2, and 16 times 2 is 32, and that's it. So x is equal to 32. If I wanted to go back and check my work, all I would have to do is substitute x for 32, and 32 divided by 2 plus 12, so 32 divided by 2 is 16, plus 12 is 28, so that's how I know I did it correctly, because this is a true statement, so x is equal to 32. So here I have x divided by negative 3 plus negative 5 is equal to 7. So remember that our goal is to isolate x, and so I'm going to leave this term for last, and that means I have to get rid of the negative 5. So in order to get rid of the negative 5, I have to so you could do the inverse additive property, so you could add 5, and that's honestly the only thing that you could do. And don't be confused with the plus sign, because even though it's plus, it is still a negative. Remember that this equation here is the same as x divided by negative 3 minus 5 is equal to 7. So these two are exactly the same. So if I want to isolate my x value, I have to add 5 on both sides. These cancel out. And so here on the left side, I have x divided by negative 3 is equal to 7 plus 5 is 12. So I have x divided by negative 3 is equal to 12. And remember that it's division. The inverse operation is multiplication. So if I want to isolate my x, I'm going to have to multiply by negative 3 on both sides. So x is equal to 12 times negative 3. So 12 times negative 3 is negative 36, and that's it. So to go back and check my work, I have to substitute. So negative 36 divided by negative 3 plus negative 5. Negative divided by a negative is a positive, and 36 divided by 3 is 12. So 12 plus negative 5. So these two signs are different, so I'm going to subtract and keep the sign of the number with the greatest absolute value. So 12 minus 5 is 7, and the number with the greatest absolute value is 12, so our answer stays positive. And because this is true, that's how I know that x is equal to negative 36. So here I have negative 12 plus x divided by 5 is equal to negative 3. Remember again that your goal is always to isolate the x. So in order to get rid of this negative 12, we're going to have to add 12 on both sides. So negative 12 and positive 12 cancel out because they're opposites, and that equals 0. On the left side, I'm left with x divided by 5 is equal to, on the right side, negative 3 and positive 12, the signs are different. So I'm going to subtract and keep the sign of the number with the greatest absolute value. So 12 minus 3 is 9. And the number with the greatest absolute value is positive in this case. So my answer is 9 after I subtract these. And now I have x divided by 5 is equal to 9. Since this is division, I'm going to use the inverse operation, which is multiplication. So I'm going to multiply by 5 on the left side. And whatever I do on the left side, I must do on the right side. So x is going to equal to 45. And if I wanted to go back and check my answer, all I would have to do is substitute for x. So negative 12 plus 45 divided by 5 is equal to negative 3. So negative 12 plus 45 divided by 5 is 9. And this is true, so that's how I know that x is equal to 45. All right, so here we have our last problem. We have negative 2 minus x over 4 is equal to negative 5. So remember, our goal is to isolate our x. So we're going to have to get rid of this negative 12, and in order to do so, we have to add 12 on both sides. So negative and a positive 12, those are opposites. They cancel out because that equals 0. On the left side, I'm just left with negative x over 4 is equal to, here I have negative 5 plus 2, so the signs are different, so I'm going to subtract and keep the sign of the one with the greatest absolute value, and that is 5, so this is actually negative 3. So here I have negative x over 4 is equal to negative 3. So you could do two things here. So we know that this term is negative. So if we wanted to cancel out the negative, we could multiply by negative 4. So we could cancel out the negative and the 4. Or we could multiply by 4 and then get rid of the negative x. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. If I wanted to, I can multiply by 4 here. That cancels these out. But remember that we still have negative x. And so I'm going to multiply this side by 4 too to balance our equation. But be mindful that if you do multiply just by 4, that this x is still negative. So we're going to have to divide by negative 1 if we want to isolate our x, because at the end we want to know what x equals, not negative x. So negative 12 divided by negative 1 is 12, so x is equal to 12. And if we wanted to go back and check our work, we'll simply substitute. So we have negative 2 minus 12 over 4 is equal to negative 5, so let's see if that's true. So negative 2 minus 12 divided by 4 is 3, and that does equal negative 5, so that is a true statement. And that's how we know that x is equal to 12, and that's it.